Hello and welcome to Falling Leaves 2020. If you've been following my work for a while, you'll know that I send out a newsletter 8 times a year to coincide with 8 seasonal occasions which are plotted out according to the life cycle of a tree. And what we find, of course, is that those seasonal opportunities coincide with ancient festivals across many cultures. And so we are often lining ourselves up with a well-known festival. For example, what we have at this time of year with the Jewish tradition is Rosh Hashanah. That's called the New Year for them. And all these ancient seasonal events centered round the agricultural year. So it's all to do with growth. We call our seasonal activities after the tree, growth of the tree, and that means that we can take a non-religious approach to it, not a non-spiritual approach, but we don't tie it in with any particular religious tradition, although obviously we acknowledge the ones that are already in place and have been in place for many generations. We first created these seasonal events when we lived in quite a large house in Oxfordshire, and we used to invite people round, and people would bring food to share, people would bring poems and music, and we would always have a fire. So that was a magical event, and even if we were still living in the same house, we wouldn't be able to do it right now because of the pandemic restrictions that we've got. But nonetheless, I think it's a really nice thing to do, even if you do it on your own or with a couple of other people, to make some kind of marker. So Falling Leaves is the same festival as the autumn equinox. So like the spring equinox, those are 2 occasions in the year when the nights and days are equal, equinox. The length of the day and the night are equal. So those are turning points. And in astrology, we have 4 particular turning points because those happen at the 2 equinoxes and the 2 solstices. And those are called tropical points in astrology. And the word tropical comes from the Greek word tropos, which means to turn, but it's also used in the sense of adopting a new manner, adopting something new. So in astrology, we get, at the tropical points, we get the beginning of what are known as the 4 cardinal signs. So that will be, right now, the beginning of Libra. Spring equinox is the beginning of Aries. Summer solstice is the beginning of Cancer. Winter solstice is the beginning of Capricorn. So those particular turning points in the year are something really special and really magic. And the reason we have 8 festivals is because halfway between each one, we get what are called a cross quarter, which are also very important to celebrate. So what can we say about falling leaves in the autumn equinox and also the sign, the zodiac sign of Libra? Well, Libra is famously recognised by the sign of the balance. So again, that's a reference to the balance of night and day. And those subject matters that are connected with Libra are to do with seeing both sides, seeing not just me, but you. So Aries at the spring equinox is just about me, or the self, or the individual. Libra recognises that for completion you have to have the other as well. So Libra is all about justice and integrity and carrying forward diplomacy as well, mediation, where there might be an argument. And there's some very interesting things going on astrologically at the moment, because Mars is in the sign of Aries at the moment. And Venus would, Venus being the ruler of Libra, would like things to be a little bit more chilled and balanced. But Mars being in Aries is being a little bit, potentially a little bit more quarrelsome. However, when we think of the time of the year being a potential for turning, for adapting a new way of doing things, and then we look at, well, what do you do when the year turns from the late summer into the autumn, moving on towards the winter? The sun is going down, the sun is descending, and won't start livening up again until the winter solstice. So we've got this quiet, restrained, retreating time. And we can think of that in very practical ways. We can say, okay, we've got to retreat into our houses. We better make sure the roof tiles are all right. We better make sure we've got the thick winter curtains up. There are no drafts. From a spiritual perspective, we can look at going inward, doing more meditation, changing our timetable so that we accommodate the fact that we're getting less light early in the morning and less light in the evenings as well. So there are all kinds of, if you like, self-caring and emotional protective things that we can do for ourselves. Just like small creatures living in the wild will also burrow down and make nests for themselves, keep themselves cozy for the colder nights that are coming. So let me share some of the content that I've written. You can read it in the newsletter as well, but I thought I might as well read it to you. So let me find it on my message board. Here it is. So the key words for falling leaves are retreat, quiet, gathering in, and conservation. So the wisdom for falling leaves is as follows. Whatever you have been planting earlier in the year, whether it's a garden of fruit and vegetables or another kind of creative garden, this is the time for gathering in your harvest, choosing the best fruits for preservation. And you will begin to feel, when you do these things, that it's a kind of inner calm comes with the practical things. A sense of descending into a quiet space. And that happens when you let go of the need to hold on to plans or material things. You could clear out some cupboards and take stuff to the charity shops. Letting go of things that you don't need, but making sure that you do conserve those that will be useful in the future. So by this time of the year, Mother Nature has distributed her bounty, and now you need to acknowledge the gifts you have been given. With the change of season comes a natural tendency for quiet evenings, for reading or learning or mending and restoring, preparing for the longer nights. So if you find some simple activities that will bring pleasure as you go into your winter retreat, a bit of hibernation. But you can also look forward to making preparations of some kind for the winter solstice festivities that will come up later. We call that season Yule. If you've got gifts you want to make for people, or cards to buy, or cards to design and make for yourself, or perhaps food that you want to prepare and stock up in your cupboard. So the leaves that are drifting at the edges of the pavements and along the pathways, they're just such glorious, glorious colours right now. Red and gold. And they remind us that even when the growth energy starts falling away, we can still experience the immense beauty in creation. Every season has its own beauty, and we can take delight in it, even in the wind and the rain. As long as we've got our raincoats on and our welly boots on, then we can splash in the puddles. And let me also suggest a ritual. And obviously you can invent your own ritual, but you could, here's a suggestion of perhaps a red candle or a gold candle, and collect some coloured leaves from your walk. Even if you just go down to a local shop, you'll probably come across some leaves along the way. And make a kind of sacred table for yourself, a little decorative table. It can be something really simple. You could have a special table or just a little corner in your bedroom. But then what you could do is set up a little date with yourself, a time when you have committed yourself to sitting with your candle and reviewing what has happened since the springtime, since sticky buds, we call it, the spring equinox. And just review, have a sort of overview of what's been going on, and acknowledging your own progress, your own spiritual progress, and what's been going on for you. And of course, this particular year, these last 6 months have been very significant for everybody in different ways, but for the collective in a really big way. So a review of this kind at this time of year, in this particular year, would be very valuable, I think. And you will see what you've been learning, and you may acknowledge how valuable those lessons have been. So allow yourself a couple of hours of personal quiet time and choose some peaceful music. Bring your diary and a pen, and then settle in to having what I call a musing, and just allowing the memories to come up and present themselves. And every time there's a memory, you kind of acknowledge, yes, that was a really useful thing to learn. And there's this kind of self-healing process when you do that. And then you can also use the diary to plot out the things that you're going to do during the quiet months. Identify the things that you feel are true to your real purpose in life, and that should still command some attention and some energy, even though this is a quieter time of the year, that there's still a process going on towards the new growth which will come up through the months ahead as we move through the next 6 months towards the spring. So thank you for being with me, and I hope what I've presented here and in the newsletter are a blessing for you, and let me know. Blessings, and keep shining.